Hello YouTube, a couple of months ago I uploaded a video of my Iceland travels and it was kind of a retrospective of what I did and where I went. Well, today I want to talk a little bit more about that trip and why, for me, it didn't go so well. In this video I'm going to go through where I went in Iceland and why for me it didn't go well. I had an awful experience photographically speaking, and I'd like to share my experiences with you so that you don't make the same mistakes. I'm going to go through each day one by one and we'll take it from there. I was really looking forward to the Iceland trip. I planned it for months, but I got the planning all wrong in the end and it was a learning experience for me. I won't make the same mistakes again. And there were a few fundamental errors that I made along the way. And in hindsight, I shouldn't have been silly enough to make them. So hopefully you'll learn something today. Maybe you're thinking of going to Iceland, maybe you're thinking of going somewhere else on your very first travel photography trip. And this video might be helpful to you. So first, a bit of background. I've been doing travel photography for a couple of years now, and I've been to places like Paris and Hong Kong, and I've been happy with the pictures I got there. They've mostly been city shots, obviously, and street photography and architecture. And I didn't think in advance that Iceland was going to be so different. Obviously, it's very, very different to those places, but it just never occurred to me that I don't know anything about landscape photography. And I came away after the Iceland trip really quite disappointed in myself and in the results. But having thought about it, some of the things were out of my control, others were within my control, but by the time I got there, it was already too late. So I'm going to go through each of the locations I visited in Iceland and tell you where it went wrong and why I'll make damn sure it doesn't go wrong next time I go to these places. So my first full day in Iceland was just spent in Reykjavik. Now, I stayed in a hotel in Reykjavik. I didn't have a hire car. I booked the hotel for the full 5 nights or whatever it was, and I decided to give myself the first day just to walk around and get my bearings, which for photography it's a little bit of a waste of time, but I figured I'd be able to get some nice shots in and around Reykjavik. And the first shot I took is the one you can see behind me here. It's of the Sun Voyager sculpture, quite a famous sculpture, and this is probably the only picture I took in Iceland that I'm truly happy with. Now, this thing is surrounded by tourists a lot of the time, so if you're going to photograph it, then I do recommend you get there early. Maybe go for a sunrise shot or a sunset shot, depending on what time of year you go. I had to be patient and just wait for a window. This is a long exposure of about 30 seconds, but trying to get 30 seconds to take this shot was really difficult. I had to hang around for quite a long time. And by the time I'd taken it, the light had sort of gone completely and really I'd lost the rest of the day. It was very, very difficult to photograph anything else interesting in Reykjavik. I'm not really much of a street photographer. I can't just walk around the streets, take pictures of people, and it's not for me what Iceland is about anyway, so I decided just to spend the rest of the day just exploring the city. Didn't do much else photographically, and that was day 1. Okay, day 2, serious shooting. Now, the biggest problem I had on this trip was caused by the very, very beginning of the planning I did, and that was to book excursions through a travel company. And the first one I booked would take us along the south coast of Iceland to Vik via some of the waterfalls, the famous waterfalls, this one behind me being Skogafoss. If you're a photographer and you're going for photography, don't do this. It was probably the root cause of all the problems I had taking great pictures. First of all, you get no time. You spend all day on these coaches and you get maybe half an hour in a location, and you know as a photographer that's no time at all. You can't wait for the light, you can't wait for the weather. You're arriving with coach loads of tourists, and trying to get a shot of the thing you're trying to take a picture of is damn near impossible. I managed to get this one by just getting very, very close and angling the camera up, but there were tourists all around me which I didn't want in the shot, and probably too many to Photoshop out. But as you can see, it's very grey. The sky was very grey. It was taken in the middle of the day. There's no definition in the sky, and I really wasn't very happy. And secondly, I had to get so close to the waterfall in temperatures of about -15 that the polarizer which I had on my camera just froze on. It's a screw-on filter, and I couldn't take it off. I could not get it off. I spent most of the time there actually trying to get the polarizer off so I could put an ND filter on and get some nice smooth water. It couldn't be done, and it absolutely ruined this shot for me. you can picture the type of shot I wanted to get. A really smooth waterfall. You've seen it a million times, I'm not reinventing the wheel, but I just wanted to have that shot in my portfolio, and I could not get that polarizing filter off for love nor money because I had to get so close to the waterfall, which was soul destroying at the time. After this shot, we went on to the village of Vik on the south coast, and I was told that there's a black sand beach and maybe I should get some shots of that. So off the coach we got in the village of Vik. I went straight to the beach, and well, this happened. In the space of a few minutes, 5 minutes, we went from windy but blue skies and some harsh but nice light to an absolute blizzard. There was no way I was going to be able to take a shot in those conditions, any shot. I didn't even have time to compose one. The weather just moved in and wiped out the entire visit, essentially, to the village of Vik. And what was made worse was the fact that I didn't get any shots of the village itself because I wanted to shoot on this beautiful black sand beach. But then we left Vik and went to a different black sand beach around 10 minutes away. The tour company didn't make it clear that that was what we were doing. If I'd known that, I could have spent time in Vik and maybe got some pictures of it. I mean, it's a beautiful village and there are hills all around it. We could have got some nice shots there, but again, the itinerary wasn't explained to me, and I go back to the excursions thing. If you're going to go to Iceland, book your own car. I didn't, because I figured I'm going in February, it's going to be icy, it's going to be snowy, I'm going to be on my own. Will I crash? Can I drive a car in those kind of conditions? Now I think, oh, if you don't think you can, then don't bother going. The whole coach thing just didn't work out for me. Now day 3, I booked snowmobiling, and I didn't book that for photography. Obviously you don't book snowmobiling if you want to get great pictures. That was just for me because I'd never done anything like that, and it was amazing. But I did have visions in my mind of being able to maybe get some drone shots. We went snowmobiling on this glacier, and it took about 3.5 to 4 hours to get there from Reykjavik in this big Jeep, which again you'll see in the video. The roads to get there were just ice trails, really. There was probably no other vehicle that could get to the glacier other than the super Jeep we were in, and it was an amazing experience. But I wanted to take some drone footage, maybe get off the snowmobile and take some shots of the glacier, because there were shots to be had, don't get me wrong, there were definitely shots to be had while we were up on that glacier, but we were led around by the tour guide, and you can see that in the video as well, and there was just no opportunity at all to take pictures. And because they'd had such heavy snow up there over the past few days, the whole snowmobiling experience took so much longer than it should have done, because the second half of the day they were going to do the Golden Circle to Thingvellir Park, or National Park, and we drove through that in no time at all. They let us off the Super Jeep for about 10 minutes. This is the Golden Circle, this is a national park in Iceland. You could spend a lifetime taking pictures there, and I had 10 minutes and I didn't get anything, as you might expect. So again, I put that down to me being so stupid as to book coach tours. It was so disappointing driving past these amazing lakes, rivers, mountains, snow on the ground, amazing trees. I couldn't take pictures of them. I just couldn't do anything at all, and it was so frustrating. But the potential was obviously there. And it was on that day, I can't remember the order, but we went to Geyser, which is a geyser, quite a famous field of geysers in Iceland. And again, it was incredible to watch. It really was. Every few minutes, every 7 minutes I think it was, you get this massive squirt of water. I managed to catch quite a small one on the video, which you can see. But I wanted to get pictures. And again, same old story. White to grey skies, completely flat, no drama, just dull lighting everywhere. Tourists all around, 360 degrees, so there was no angle I could get. And when the geyser did spurt, you had the steam, you had the white sky, you had the snow. There was no contrast, it was just white. And through the magic of editing, that's what I got. It's just white. If I'd been in a car on my own journey, I would have been able to come back here, maybe wait till the sky was a bit clearer, come at different times of the day when the light was different and get a much better shot. And I did get a better shot than that. That's an example of the kind of thing that I was getting. It just soul destroying that I knew. At the time I took that, everybody else was back on the Jeep waiting for me, because we only had 3 plumes, 7 minutes, and we only had about half an hour there, so 3 or 4 times, 3 or 4 opportunities to take the shot. And finally, day 4, the daytime was spent going to the Blue Lagoon. Again, I went to Iceland, I had to do it. I thought at this point I'll have seen the black sand beaches, I'll have seen the national park and the Golden Circle, I'll have seen the waterfalls, I'll have gotten some good pictures, so I'll go to the Blue Lagoon because you have to. And I spent half a day there, and again it was a great experience, but there's not much there for photographers really. Again, you see me larking about in the lagoon and drinking cider in the video, but there's nothing there for photographers. And so if you're going specifically for photography, maybe give it a miss. If you're going for the experience, then I highly recommend it. And in the evening, we went out to try to get the Northern Lights. Now, I'd actually booked the Northern Lights excursion for the first night I was there, but it was completely cloudy over everywhere within driving distance of Reykjavik for almost the whole week. And on the last night, they said, we're going to go, but we don't think you're going to see anything. We'll try to get something. And we went out, and we actually went out to near the airport. Now that's not ideal because of the light pollution caused by the airport. And there was a tiny break in the clouds just for a few minutes, but it was so windy. It must have been 30, 40, 50 mile an hour winds and gusts, which meant keeping the camera still to try to get the long exposure needed was nigh and impossible. So the only way I could do it was to shelter on the far side of the coach, which limited my composition options obviously, and this was the best composition I could find while huddled behind the coach. And it's not great, it's okay, but it's not great. And in the end, it's a decent shot. It's not what you imagine though. This blue-green hue here surrounding the tree is the Northern Lights. I couldn't see it with my eyes on the night, but the camera picked it up straight away, and this one here is a lighthouse in the distance, so it's not a terrible picture, but it's not going to win any awards for the Northern Lights. And I was so disappointed because I wanted to go and see the proper Northern Lights, but it was a low aurora, it was really windy, really cloudy, and we were in the light pollution of the airport anyway, so this was the best I could do. Had I been in a hire car or in a camper, I could have gone anywhere on the island and waited all night, but no, we spent about 3 hours on the last night on a coach journey getting that. So those were my mistakes, and I hope this helps you to think about the kind of things that you need to do in advance and do while you're there. Number 1 tip, don't book coach tours. It's pretty easy to get around Iceland. We didn't go anywhere that was very far off the beaten track other than the glacier. You're not going to be able to go there. You're not going to be able to drive there in a hire vehicle at all. But apart from that, you can get around pretty easily. There were plenty of cars on the roads. They were icy. I went in early February, but there were lots of cars around and no one really seemed to be struggling with the ice. I don't know whether they have special tyres or something, or whether they're just used to driving. But if you are worried, just go a little bit later in the year. You don't need the snow and ice that I wanted. I wanted the snow and the ice in my shots, and I wanted to experience it. But if I was to make that decision again, I'd probably go slightly later in the year and definitely get a hire car. Probably wouldn't stay in Reykjavik either, because you're missing all those opportunities for sunrises and sunsets unless you're up very early or out very late. Get a camper van, find small hotels dotted around the island of Iceland, camp if you have to. That's the way to do Iceland for a photographer. I know many of you watching this probably already know this, and you're probably calling me all sorts of silly names now, and you're absolutely right. I don't know what to tell you. I will be going back, I don't know when. I'll do it right next time. But if you are a relatively new, inexperienced travel photographer and you thinking Iceland is going to offer you great photographic opportunities, it will. but you do have to make the most of them. Don't make the same mistakes I made. So if that's been helpful, please give this video a like, because I need the likes in order for YouTube to move me up the search rankings so I can continue to make these videos. If you didn't like this video, then just say why in the comments. Just leaving a thumbs down doesn't help me, so say why in the comments. And of course, subscribe. I'm doing a new series on landscape photography, learn landscape photography, because I know nothing about it. I'm trying to learn, and I think it's quite fun for people to come and watch me make mistakes and fall over as I did last week. And yeah, I'll see you next time.